Now we will finish this area of the facing. Make sure that the neckline area of the facing allowance is laid flat on the neckline area and shoulder area of the bodice. We do this by pinning them flat together. This procedure is also to be done on the other side of the blouse. Okay, now we will just sew this together, the facing allowance and the sewing line allowance of the shoulder, so that the facing allowance will not move. Here are the stitches that we sewed together, the facing and the sewing allowance of the shoulder. This is to be repeated on the other side. For you to get easily the center line of both sides of the front bodice, all you have to do is, starting from the bottom of the blouse, measure from the overlap or bottom lap allowance 1.5 inches. And mark this with a pin. Then, again, get 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters. Mark this with a pin. And here, go out 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters. Then, from the bottom of the blouse, you lay the right side of the front bodice over the left side of the front bodice and pin this together. Now to get the depth of the opening of the neckline, from the corner of the neckline and the shoulder, measure until the desired depth of the neckline opening. So if the desired depth of the neckline is 7.5 inches or 19 centimeters, we have to go down 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters lower. This is to give way to the overlap or bottom lap allowance. Okay, I'll pin this here to indicate where the button will be placed. And as you see, when I open this, because of the overlap, the depth of the opening will be right on where you want it, which is 7.5 inches or 19 centimeters. Okay, as you can see, this is the center of the button, where the button will be placed. So from here, just estimate where you want the distance of your buttonholes or buttons. Usually, the distance between the buttons is 3 inches or 7.5 centimeters or 3.5 inches or 8.5 centimeters. The determinant is the hemline and the last button, because we don't want your last button to be somewhere here. It has to have at least a distance of 4 inches or 10 centimeters from the hemline to the last button. Then you make your decision on the distances between the buttonholes. Okay, to mark this, you can go this way, and then let's say you want 3.5, go this way, and from here, go this way. Of course, we're using a pencil which is washable. Since we pre-buttonhole this, we will just make a sample of the how to buttonhole. So we will first get 3/4 of an inch or 2 centimeters to mark the overlap or bottom lap allowance. So from here, if we start the buttonhole here, we indicate it this way, and then if you want the other buttonhole after a distance of 3 inches or 7.5 centimeters, we also mark it here. Then we will get the width of the button. We will mark it this way and also this way. Okay? Then we will have to machine sew around the buttonhole to secure the pieces together. I mean the bodice to the facing allowance. This way, after cutting the buttonhole, the fabric pieces will remain intact or together. There's no need to overlap this. Okay, we use a different colored thread so you will see how the machine stitching is run around the buttonhole line. Okay, or the buttonhole mark. The stitches will be run twice, but we will change the color of the thread to green. And we couldn't lock stitch it, so we just sewed over the previous stitches. Pin the two ends of the buttonhole first so that you can align where the ends of the buttonhole are, and then cut a little piece of the buttonhole, remove the pin, and continue cutting until the end of each buttonhole. Okay? Now we can start sewing buttonhole stitches on the buttonhole. We start the buttonhole stitch at the bottom of the buttonhole so that when we place the button here, the stitches here on top are clean. Okay, so now first we will put in the thread, and then we put in the needle on the fabric, and the thread we place from right to left under the needle, and then pull the needle outwards this way. Okay, the stitches should be even in length and spacing. My needle is big and the stitches are quite big too, so that you get to see them. Anyway, I may have forgotten to mention that this is double threaded. You have 4 threads here. Here, the stitches are slanting to follow the corner of the buttonhole and eventually is sewn straight. So place the thread from right to left around the needle. Make sure that the stitches are snug but not tight, or it might just get knotted up, and then we will need to unknot the thread, which will take time. Now at the very end, we can just overstitch the thread on the wrong side of the blouse to lock the stitches. By the way, I made the threads 4 strands so that you can actually see it. That's why it looks a little too prominent and bulky. But actually, we just need 2 strands of thread, or just need to double thread our needle. After removing the pins, we will align the blouse on the facing side this way. Then, to attach the button, we will put in the needle in the middle of the buttonhole, this way. Then, we will get the button and start attaching the button on the blouse. Now, at the very end, we can just overstitch the thread on the wrong side of the blouse to lock the stitches.